Hello, folks. Welcome to that Sunday show. Another edition, a happier edition than this time last week, it has to be said. But let's just get into it tonight. I'll introduce my two stellar guests. Tonight, Andrew, it's good seeing you again, mate. We were working something last week. It's good. We're starting to make up a week in a double A partnership here.
Yeah. I'm still upset, obviously, about the influx of Andrews here. But I'm getting over it slowly and surely. But yeah, no, it's a pleasure to be on, mate. I'm happy to be here.
And I'm also joined by our mainstay on the Sunday show, Sheryl. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm better than the last time. I'm not feeling the need to post the Smiths at the moment. Maybe kind of the beginning of the second half. But yeah, I'm all right. I'm much better. Thank you.
I'm starting to switch how I'm feeling on 10-minute basis. We'll see what happens next 10 after that. God knows what can happen. Last but not least, before we get into the show tonight, we'd like to thank our sponsors for the season, Rhino Express, if I'm not wasted work, Cliveview Joinery, Athol Industrial Solutions, CSD Air Conditioning, Black Rooster, and Art of Gold. Thank you for your support, as always. Right, let's get into it. We'll get into it by looking slightly backwards, but not too far. How we were feeling going into today's game. Obviously, everyone's aware a nice, comfortable result in Europe on Thursday evening. Andrew, I was maybe happier than I was expecting to be going into this St Mirren match. If you'd maybe told me Wednesday night, going into Saturday's game or Sunday's game, sorry, I'm getting my days mixed up, then we'd be in a happier place, a confident result. I would maybe have thought you were lying to me, but how were you feeling going into that game? I was certainly more positive than I was expecting.
It's amazing what a 4-0 win will do for your mood, right? Especially in Europe. I mean, obviously we talked about the Sunday game across the network, and I don't think anyone was particularly happy about it. Felt like a turning point in some ways for the supporters' trust in the manager at that point, which I don't think is unreasonable because it wasn't the first time we'd seen that kind of, let's call it, insipid performance. But the bounce back in the European game was really good to see. Seeing Cherney do his thing, seeing Igaman get on the score sheet as well. It was a lot of positive things to see, and the hope was that we would take that better form and run that into to the league form, because I think one thing's been clear, that we can perform really well on a European stage. It's the question marks that we have around the domestic front that seems to be coming back to us, but we will get into that, I'm sure.
Cheryl, it was going to be a tough game for myself personally. I live in Paisley. I have a lot of friends who are St Mirren fans, and I knew I wouldn't hear the end of it if we were to fall today. But we got there in the end. I'm just thinking back and trying to be not too kind of surprised now. I was surprised at the time. Looking at that team sheet, I know there was a lot of discussion after the game of Thursday night that certain players were pulling up with cramp. There was the eye issue with Dessers. Looking at the team sheet when it came out, were you surprised with the amount of changes that maybe we had today?
Do you know what? I wasn't after Thursday. I did think that I didn't think the Dessers would start, and I think, to be honest, when I looked at the response from X, I think last week I had said that I would really like to see Casemiro starting, so I was absolutely delighted with that. And as well, the way that Igaman took his goal on Thursday, and the kind of dubiety around the way that Dessers left the pitch, and I was happy with that. I wasn't surprised at all to see that. I was actually delighted, and the general response to it, whether it worked or not, I seem to think was quite positive as well. I know, we've just speaking about what you guys had covered, we've had a few false dawns. We've had a few Thursday decent results on a Thursday where we think it's going to carry forward to a Sunday, and unfortunately it doesn't. And prior to the game as well, thinking about it, we haven't really given St Mirren a proper doing for quite a long time. Certainly not that I can remember recently. So I did think that we would be in for quite a tough game, because we probably wouldn't get that bounce that you would probably think that any other team would get off the back of that result. But like I say, a few false dawns in terms of that.
Yeah, I'm just going to bring up one, just 3 points is the must for us at this point in time, but we cannot deny we are fragile at best. Let's talk about that then. A slow start is what I've got it down on in my notes, Andrew. It did look like, you know, every pass was maybe 2 yards wide of the intended recipient, and St Mirren were just bang up for it. And I mean, what do you expect them to do? They want to put us under pressure at our home stadium, but it did feel early on like, this is a story we may have seen before. Slow start seemed to be a bit of a killer for us at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, the way that St Mirren set themselves up, they dominated the midfield because they had 5 guys in there. They were obviously set up to be more defensive. But I think they actually started, for all we like to complain about some of the styles of play in the league, they were quite aggressive in how they started. They were attempting to press us, they were attempting to play forward. And while that's good to see, it didn't suit us because I don't think we were expecting that at all. And so we reacted badly to it, obviously. Um, the way that we're expecting that game to go, we're expecting to dominate possession, we're expecting to have lots of time on the ball. The problem was that St Mirren kept doubling up on everyone who had the ball. They were very aggressive in terms of trying to get possession back, especially in that first half, and they were working effectively to a game plan to make things difficult for us. I mean, they came with a game plan, and I think it's fair to say that for large parts of the game, it worked for them.
Yeah, Sheryl, it's that I was going to touch on it slightly earlier, but we'll talk about it now for just for the sake of it. Uh, it frustrates me as somebody who watches quite a lot of Scottish football. I like to do a bit of research on the opposition, but knowing St Mirren and the manager, and knowing how we faced up against his teams in the past, it's quite rinse repeat of a Robinson side. Thinking back to Motherwell days, they defend a box well. They've got the big strapping centre halves. They're going to want the aerial battles. Charles Dunn today. I mean, that goes back to Motherwell as well. Um, we were consistently going with our plan A until plan A worked, and we were lucky today. I mean, we'll get into the goal. Plan A worked through, a cutback, a Raskin shot, which the keeper, to his credit, has a good goal at, but Diamandi there to mop up on the doorstep. Plan A until it works is a dangerous strategy, but it did today, Cheryl.
Yeah, but do you know what? It kind of feeds into that narrative, isn't it? That at times we're very, very easy to play against. And it certainly looked like that as well. And I know I guess it's sometimes a bit daft to compare, but if you look at St Mirren last week against Hearts, they got an absolute doing. And if you look at Kilmarnock yesterday, they were beaten by Ross County. So what is it about these teams that, that we are easy? That it probably is a certain bit of them up in their game or whatever. I don't know, but we did look at times. We started slowly. We were sluggish. We lost the ball so many times. And I touched on it last week. The thing that really annoys me sometimes with us is that lack of fight and that lack of desire. And certainly in the first half, when you're looking there for leaders, I know we had Butland as our captain. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I'm always a wee bit dubious of having a goalie as your captain because they're that bit further back. But what I noticed, certainly from our man of the match today, even in the first half, was Raskin shouting, was geeing everybody up, was giving those instructions. But certainly in the first half, the goal was against the run of play. A great shot from Raskin, and we were just fortunate that Diamandi was there to knock it home. But the goal that we lost as well was awful. And again, you can see it coming. Nobody on Gogic. He's obviously massive. Do you know, Stevie Wonder could see that he was going to go up there and header that ball. And yet again, at a set piece, we miss it. We're so easy to play against at times, domestically certainly.
Yeah, Andrew, we'll get into that goal we conceded. Set piece weakness hits us again. But as Sheryl said there, Alex Gogic, aerial threat. I look back at it. I know there was a bit of complaining at the time from Jack Butland. I think Proper as well was unhappy with Gogic's leap. I think Proper, I'm sure we'll get on to him. Could do better. I think he's just been out jumped. He's been fed his lunch. I think James Scott is on the line, kind of body blocking Butland. But I mean, we've seen this before at set pieces. If you're not going to stop their striker standing in front of your keeper, then that's your own fault. I mean, we can't really point the finger at anybody else but ourselves for that goal we conceded.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll discuss individual player performances in a bit, but certainly, I mean, a lot of the defence should do better for that. I think Butland's in no man's land for that one. I think he should be doing better because of where the ball's coming in. And yeah, Proper's caught underneath it and isn't strong enough to stand up to Gogic, who, I mean, it's not like he's a brand new player. We've no idea how he's going to set up and play. We've seen him multiple times, unfortunately, against us, of what he can do in terms of a set piece. We knew that was going to be St Mirren's strategy, and I mean it was their strategy for a large parts of the game. Lump as many guys into the box, hoof balls in there, either throwing them or kicking them, and hopefully see something that happens. So it shouldn't be a surprise to know that that's what's going to be happening to us. It was just a real shame how poorly we defended that one, and given. I think the energy levels are certainly lacking following the European performance. You know that it's probably going to be a low-scoring game as a result of that. And to concede a goal, especially when we did, disappointing, I think, to say the least.
Yeah, we'll get into it then with Robin Proper. When he came on Thursday night, I thought he didn't hit the ground running. He looked unsteady, to say, that's a positive thing to say about him from that night. But the irony of Sasa Papac doing the half-time Union jackpot draw and going, can he get his boots out and get on the park? I think that tells you all you need to know. For someone that was brought in, there was a lot of talk about him being a two-footed defender, happy to play the ball on his left. We played with Balogun and Suter, and Suter was happy to be back on his right side of the centre-back pairing, Balogun happy to cover the left side. Today we went back to having Proper at the left side and going Balogun to the right. It just looked unsteady. Balogun, I'm not going to point the finger too much at Balogun, obviously. He did the best it could, but I think for me, I'm starting to become slightly, I'm not even going to say slightly, I'm certainly underwhelmed with Robin Proper's last few games.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the worrying thing, he's quite a big guy, but he really struggled. Is it Olasanya that he was up against quite a lot? He really, really struggled with the physicality of him. And he does seem to struggle in the domestic games, which when I first seen him, I can't remember if it was the Motherwell game, the first couple of games at Hampden, he looked decent. He looked like a sort of proper old school defender that wasn't scared to get stuck in, that was quite big, that was quite strong, that didn't shirk out of a challenge. However, that it just seems to really struggle with the kind of physical side of our domestic games, and it is quite worrying. I do think that we missed Suter today. I think we missed his leadership. I don't know if I haven't paid that much attention to it, but they seem to make quite a good partnership. I don't know if he relies on Suter to sort of talk him through games or whatever, or to be there beside him, but we certainly missed Suter at the back beside him today. And the one thing I will say is good on Clement for taking him off as quickly as he did, because when he made that mistake down on the byline, I think we were all watching behind our fingers, because he had been absolutely chronic up until then, and I think that was the last straw. And I'm just absolutely delighted that Clement did take him off as quickly as he did, because when Casemiro went to centre back and obviously Tav came in, it did. I don't think St Mirren really threatened after that. We looked far more settled after that.
Andrew, I've heard lots of words there, chronic and being the last straw. One player that falls into that category for most weeks, was somebody that came on and made an impact today. Our number 9, he was on the bench to start, which was a positive. But I'm all for giving credit where it's due. When he came on, he looked like he had a point to prove. He wasn't shy of, again, he missed a couple towards the end of the game, which we know you're going to get from Sheryl. But Andrew, it was a performance of, to me, when he was getting the ball, it was a case of, I'll just do it myself then. It felt like there was a lot of, just give me the ball and I'll see what I can do. And I think that's exactly where the goal comes from. I think it's actually remarkable is the word I'm thinking, especially given the fact that Sheryl Dessers, the amount of I want to say joy he gets taking on the man to the byline and the cut back to Tierney. I think we have to give him his props. It was a decent performance from Cyril.
The assist's fantastic, and I mean it's exactly what you want. If you've been dropped to the bench, you want to come on and prove a point, right? I think the problem was if he'd done that and then done nothing else throughout the game, we'd have gone on and said, yeah, no, that's a great contribution. The problem was, in the dying moments of the game, especially in the moment, looking back on it now, I think we were relatively comfortable. But in the moment, you want that third goal. You want to be able to kill the game off to make it easier for yourselves. And instead, we spend the last 10 minutes biting our fingernails down to the shreds and, panicking a bit. It's the two chances. I mean, he has to do so much better with both of those. It is amazing seeing how someone can make an easy looking chance look so difficult. I don't want to take anything away from the assist either. I think he does fantastically there. Really good contribution. Helps Tierney continue this really good run that he's on as well. So it's a really positive contribution. But the problem is that he then keeps playing for the next 20 minutes, and we see some other aspects of his game which are a bit more frustrating, let's say. But I mean, yeah, it's like I say, it's what you want to see from someone coming on as a sub. You want to see them contributing and making a difference. And he did do that initially.
We'll talk about the man he replaced, Sheryl. Obviously, after the goal on Thursday night, we were buzzing for Hamza. We wanted to see more of him. I was calling it Morocco clock at the time. We were all in it to win it with him. It didn't go to plan today, I think is a nice way of saying it. Granted, I think, when Dessers came on, I was thinking to myself, I don't know if Sheryl does any better than what Hamza had to work with today. It was a tough afternoon from him. That's the way I would say it. How would you feel about it?
I think it kind of affirms that at the moment, for where he is with his game, he's an impact sub. He comes on. I know we're very overly reliant on Dessers, and I know the frustrations that we have with him. And it's maybe too early to say, but this is his second start where he has looked a wee bit lost. However, you bring him on Thursday, and his goal was absolutely brilliant. So I don't know, we're maybe getting Danilo back. We have a look for somebody else in January as well to show us up. But going forward, and I don't think I was saying this time last week, but I would start with Dessers and have Igamani. If you're going to just play with the one up front, have Igamani as your impact sub, because I think that definitely it made a big difference today, bringing Dessers on, and he was instrumental in that goal. Again, these are things that it's Rangers. 1 week you're saying something, the next week you're saying something else. However, this week we're going to go with a line with we should be starting with Dessers because he made the difference today. Absolutely.
That's those words are scarring, but unfortunately they are the truth. We continue to talk about individual players. It leads me into also another debate altogether. James Tav obviously doesn't start. Andrew, he comes on. I think at the time, I was looking at the bench and thinking, well, who actually can we split proper for? And it did seem like Tav was probably the only option, and then you push Cass into the centre back area. Firstly, I'll throw it up to you as, how did you think Tav was? Obviously, it's something new, him not starting, and how fast it was him stealing the armband off of Butland. And also, I'll fling it to you as well as it was asked previously in the comments by Paul, one of the listeners. Do you think it was a penalty on the Dessers one at the end? I'll give you my take on the penalty after you give me your take. And if yours is similar to mine, I'll just pretend I didn't say anything.
I mean, it's the argument, right? Would you feel aggrieved if it was given against you? I'd be furious if we had that penalty awarded against us, It would be very soft. I think it's unlikely. Obviously, in the moment, of course, it was a penalty, definitely, just so we can hopefully get that third goal and get it over the line. But looking back on it, I mean, I don't think there's any chance realistically, unless, well, obviously the conspiracy goes so high, the refs knew we were going to win that anyway. So, they didn't need to give it to us. And I mean, just in terms of Tav, his performance, firstly, I think Big Cass did great at right back, no issues whatsoever. And I think he contributed going forward as well, which is good to see in terms of trying to get things set up and trying to make things happen. Tav came on and did fine. it was notable that as soon as he did come on, St Mirren started targeting our right-hand side, which probably doesn't reflect well on him and his role in the team. But I don't think he came on and did anything aggressively wrong. So, I mean, you know, I've got nothing really to say on that front. Yeah, I mean, yeah, to be honest, I mean, I think it was a like, to be honest. So, I mean, see Cass going into the centre of defence there, I think that was good to see. It's probably disappointing that someone like Leon King isn't on the bench and couldn't be in a position to take advantage of that, because to go around the houses and talk about another player proper, I don't think had a foothold on that game the entire time he was there. Really struggled with the physicality of St Mirren, looked lost at times. Balogun's, I think, a good player, but I think he works best with, you know, a player who's a stronger leader beside him. And I think Suter is someone who's grown into that role. And Galton before him, with the two of them working together, I don't think that quite works in terms of the balance, in terms of the way that they both want to play. So it's fair to say I think the defence did look a lot stronger when Tav came into it. And I don't know how much of that is Tav coming in at right back or Cass going in next to going in next to Balogun and sort of shoring up that area as well. It's a tricky one to say because, you know, there's a number of factors, right? But certainly once Cass is in that centre-back position and once Tav's on at right back, I don't think our defence looked as vulnerable as it had done throughout the rest of the game. And that's only a positive, right?
Can I just pick up on something that you said, Andrew, in terms of the conspiracy? Because if there is a conspiracy, that referee today knew nothing of said conspiracy. He was absolutely howling.
Yeah, I would like to state, yeah, I did say I would give you my opinion on the penalty. I would double-edged sword it and also point out, you know, I'll bring it up. It's exactly the I'll bring it up. It's exactly my finger's picking the wrong one. There you go. That's the one. He needs to stop. He needs to stop doing that. I mean, it's obvious now. It's turning into the boy who cried wolf, is what I said after Thursday night. He goes down so many times. You know, any time, you know, the centre back's in the same postcode as him and he's going down. And referees are going to start to know. It took them not too long to catch Alfie. Then it took them too long to start writing up that agenda against Todd. Cyril's falling into this trap, and you know, for everyone that is actually an infringement on him, if he keeps throwing himself to the ground, flinging his arms in the air, and actually if he gets shot, he's not going to get them. And it's the long and the short of it. I feel for him at times because some of them I do shout for when I see him getting short pulls and stuff, because that's what you do as a fan. If you see it, you shout it, because that's just what we are. But sometimes it is laughable, and I hate to say that about a Rangers player, but it just is. Let's start with the Dessers bashing, because I feel like we were slipping down a slope there, and I know I pushed us down it in the first place. But let's talk about positivity then. And unfortunately, I'm going to start it with another negative comment, but we'll get into the positive side of it. Nico Raskin. I'll come to both of you on this one because it's such an important topic to talk about. Nico Raskin, after however long he has been out for, and it was quite a long time. I think we were all starting to almost forget about him on the Christmas card list. He was right at the bottom of my list this year. But he certainly worked his way back into the hearts and minds of the Rangers support. Andrew, all that time out, and he's come back into being probably our best player in the last couple of games. Is that maybe more a damning statement on the rest of the players around him? I know we're trying to be positive, but I think it's something that we maybe need to discuss.
Is he really good, or are they all really shit? I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's this thing. You know, we always say that the longer a player's out, the better they become, right? With Raskin, it actually looks like that is the case. I think him and Barron together really complement each other. I think our midfield looks so much stronger and more controlled when they're both in there as well. Even during today's game, which I think was more of a lackluster performance, I think the midfield for us looked like it had a lot more solidity and a lot more, you know, it was a more calming presence, I think, for the midfield. You know, either Raskin or Barron were always available. Nico Raskin's looked great. He hasn't missed a step since coming back in. You wouldn't think he's been a player who's been not even on the fringes, like completely out of the squad for a while. Him coming back in and slotting in so well has been really good to see. Because we've talked across numerous pods about we needed reinforcements in the midfield and we need more experience there, more bodies, better players basically. I still think that's the case because we have probably a good pair of midfielders in Barron and Raskin, with Diomande occasionally coming in or not. But if any of those three guys get injured, knock on wood, obviously, then we're in trouble. I don't particularly think that anyone else we've got in there at the moment has sort of made a position or made a good argument for themselves to come in. So yeah, I mean, I'm very, very happy with Raskin. You can only hope that that continues to improve. That his performance continues to stay as strong as it has. It's been really good to see. You would like to see the rest of the team hopefully starting to gel and build up around that as well, and seeing some really good stuff happening.
Like you're saying, nobody else is making that impression on you. What more does Kieran Dill have to do to become a starter for Rangers? No,
He could do things. He could what is it? Play football and things like that. That would be nice to say. If he starts doing that, I mean, I'm not asking for a lot, really. Realistically, I'm just asking for him to do
Kieran Dill had the goal of the season wrapped up against Livingston. He had the goal of the season wrapped up against Livingston last season. A Rabbi Matondo assist. What more could you ask for, folks? We'll stay on it. Sheryl, obviously, he was my man of the match, as he was also my man of the match on Thursday. If the law of averages tells you something, he'll probably be the same, because Nico Raskin is that good, folks. No, we're not going to get ahead of ourselves. Knowing Rangers, Nico will now have a cruciate and will be out until 2028, knowing our luck. But we'll stay in the here and now, forget about 2028. Nico Raskin today, I think with Barron was maybe drifting a wee bit wider to try and cover Casemiro a wee bit. I think Kaz wanted to get up the park, which fair play to him. He's got the energy and the pace to burn, go for it. But I think that put even more pressure onto Nico to try and run the game, and Sheryl did it superbly.
Yeah, he really did, and there was that kind of, I think I touched on it early, that leadership that he showed when there wasn't many other players that were kind of stepping up and trying to get a hold of the game, certainly in the first half. I can't remember what game it was. It was earlier in the season. He started earlier in the season and he was in with Barron, but didn't. I don't know if it was Hibs. It was Hibs, or it was just before that. But him and Barron seemed to be trying to do the same thing all the time, and we're kind of sort of playing in too similar a manner. But the last couple of games have really gelled, and they've been excellent. Their ability to win the ball back, to get stuck in. He was everywhere today. Do you know what? He was snapping back. If he lost the ball, he was in there quickly winning it back. I thought he was excellent. And long may it continue, because we haven't really, I can't think of a time where we've actually seen a long run of Raskin, where he's either been out of the team or he's been injured. So if he can maintain this, if he can maintain his fitness, I think I agree with Andrew that those are your two starters. It's him and Barron together, particularly if I'm not a great fan of using Diomande a wee bit further forward, but if Tom Lawrence is a long-term injury, and we don't really have that option on the left at the moment, so we're using Bayrami out there. If we're going to keep using Diomande up front, but even if we're not, I would say at the moment it's Raskin and Barron. That's your twosome in midfield, definitely.
Andrew, I'll stay on Raskin. Are you going to get him in the back of a Rangers shirt anytime soon? I was at the club shop the other day and I was tempted. No, I'm past those days. But again, thinking back, I mean, this has been a while now. Nico's been at the club. Obviously came in a similar time to Todd Cantwell, all those eons ago, before things were said and players were sold. But we're finally potentially seeing, a good run for him, which is something that I was thinking about when Tom Lawrence was maybe starting to find goals. Even the Dundee United game where he got the only goal that game, he fell into that category again of he maybe looks good for a 3 or 4 game spell and then he gets injured. And in Raskin's case, he falls off the face of the earth. It's all about just take it a game at a time, rest him where he needs it now, because we know we certainly can't take any more risk with him.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a problem, unfortunately, we've got with a number of players. We want to try and keep the squad as fit as possible, but we unfortunately have a couple of players who, let's say, we prefer not to come in, but they end up having to come in because the players who ideally would be our first teamers are injured. I think Cortez is an example of a player who I think we've all got high hopes for, but the problem is we've seen him for about 2 games so far over the course of his time at Rangers. So, you know, we want to be able to rotate the squad more. We want to be getting some of these exciting players into it, but again, injuries, whatever kind of voodoo curse is hanging over us, keeps taking them out. So I think it's all about getting what you can out of players for as long as you can. We've talked about Tom Lawrence in the past, and to be honest, if you were telling me that Tom Lawrence looked like our most creative player this season, last season, then I would have thought you were crazy. But he has been. He's been making things happen. Similarly, the first half of this season, you know, if we said that Cherney's going to go on a goal-scoring run, like score 5 goals in 7 games or something like that, madness. But that's happening. So ultimately, we've got to try and get what we can from this squad of players. I think no one's under any illusions. You know, this is still St Mirren. It's not, you know, the game that we're going to have on Wednesday, for instance. And I don't think this squad is in a position at the moment where we can have a lot of confidence that it can do what we want it to do as it stands. That being said, all we can do is try and build things. You can try and make things happen, and you can try and encourage some of these relationships. The Raskin and Barron one's something I think we would love to see more of. And I agree, incidentally, I don't think Diamande should be playing the 10 unless he absolutely have to, because I don't think he's as effective there as we would like, you know, despite obviously getting a goal today. But it's trying to make things work. We talked in the past about having to be pragmatic about squad selection and formation, even, you know, trying to commit to a system that needs 2 wingers while we only have 1 fit winger. It's about working with what you have and trying to get results, because at the end of the day, if you're a Rangers manager, that's what counts, right?
Yeah, well, it's as you were saying there, it was only St Mirren. I'm aware of that, guys in the comments. Don't worry, I'm aware it was only lowly St Mirren, which I'm happy to say as somebody living in Paisley, not as a get it round you to my friends, but as just a wee reminder that we may not be doing brilliantly, but we still are who we are. Let's talk about our next matchup then. A team that certainly isn't St Mirren and have been playing rather well, regardless of whether you'd like to admit it or not. Tied for the lead in points. Granted, a good few goals behind the other mob in the top place. But Sheryl, Aberdeen, a game that maybe I don't want to say we were maybe hoping to push back into the fixtures until we maybe hit a better run of form, but we're going to have to face it. Aberdeen aren't going to go away, and we need to start cutting down the points deficit. They've been playing well, again, as I said, but Pittodrie away, you know, regardless of what the media said, I think BBC Sports Scotland said that Aberdeen were the marginal favourites. I think they said it was that they had them down to, I think this game, although it may be difficult, needs to act as a catalyst for the rest of our season. You need to go and win that one, and then from there we can maybe take a wee bit of solace in the fact we're cutting down the points deficit, and we just need to take a game at a time from then. But it's a massive game, and one we can't really afford to slip up on.
Absolutely. Do you know what? I think this is probably the benchmark for where we're at. I think this is going to be a really good illustration of how far we've come or how far we need to go, because this is the game. Apologies, I just have a dog who's entered the room and is drinking from next to me. So I apologies about that. I think that I would hope that, you know, that he doesn't need to say much to get these players up for this. The crowd are going to be right on top of them. If any of those players need any kind of G'ing up, then we're in a huge amount of trouble, because this game is going to show you where we're at. And if we have any fight and if we have that desire, then, you know, we need to show it. We really, really need to show it on Wednesday. Can I pick up on one of the comments that one of our regular listeners, Paul, had made as well? I don't know how you guys feel about this. The kind of maybe the Casa and the left back. position, pushing Jeffy up as well, just an option, and then getting Bayrami into the 10 as well, because I know none of us are really great fans of Diamande in there. Your thoughts on that for Wednesday, guys? I don't know if it's too soon to try it. I don't see why not, and I think that might give us an option as well, a wee bit more than we're getting from the left at the moment.
I mean, it's certainly a shout. I mean, we're in a position where a couple of injuries certainly limits the amount of shouts that we may have. So having another option to explore is key for us at the minute. I think, you know, Cass and Jeffy, you know, both guys with stacks and stacks of energy to burn. And I was pulling my hair out at times watching Bajrami off the left, and it's absolutely none of his fault. How many times have we seen creative players like him, you know, getting pushed out to the wide areas? I think Aribo, I think Hadji. It's not their forte, but if it's needed, then they get shucked there, and it is what it is. I'm too busy dreaming of the Matondo return, to be perfectly honest. So, as you'll come to learn over my time here, Rabbi Matondo is my Scott Wright to Stevie. So, there's absolutely nobody else for that left wing position than my Rabbi. But I don't know, Andrew. What's your thoughts on just this option?
It's tempting, right? I think we've seen Casa playing international football, and he's done really well at the left back position. Can't forget that Ridvan is in training and potentially close to a comeback as well. So I think I think it's harsh on Yefty pulling him out that left back position, because I think he has been really effective there. He's been quietly doing well, but it's needs must, right? It's trying to make things work. I'd love to see Bayrami playing in the 10. I think he would be much more effective there than any of the other options we've had there. It's about making stuff work around him, whether that's Rabbi Matondo or Oscar Cortez, maybe in a decade or so, or Ridvan or Yefty going in the left wing position. We need to do something, because I think it was clear from today that we are still not as creative as I think we need to be in that front third. Cherney does have a nice habit of popping up with really crucial goals for us, but that's not something you can rely on. We saw last Sunday that you can't rely on just give the ball to one player and pray that they do something really effectively. So it's an interesting shout, and frankly, it's nice to have the ability to discuss changes in that area as well. So I'm certainly not opposed to it. We've seen before that changes can sometimes spark things into life, and you can find partnerships that you might not have predicted at the start of the season coming together. So certainly an interesting shout for sure.
I mean, certainly given the fact that if the injury list continued to grow, all three of us may have been contenders for the left wing position earlier on in the season, and that's saying something. I'm a right back by trade, and yet left wing was calling me. But I'll stay with you just quickly, Andrew. But Jimmy's Dons, they'll be ready and raring to go in front of their home fans. It's going to be a game for cool heads. Funnily enough, one player that I think has been a cool head, and we spoke about him slightly alongside Nico today, Connor Barron. It'll be a feisty game for him. I think the ill treatment of him is about as predictable as potentially having Ryan Jack doing the punditry on Sky's coverage for the game on Wednesday night. But although yes, he will be a target for it, his experience at the club and knowing how feisty it can be, he needs to be one of this. This is going to be one where he's going to be a leader for the other 10 players in that team. Some players obviously were here last season, so they're going to have to play their part. But a lot was noted about 7 of the summer signings playing today, so that's going to be a lot of new experiences for them in a very hostile environment like Pittodrie this week coming.
As I understand it, all of our players are just in the building, so we need to give them time to bed in. Apparently,
from now until the end of time.
Yeah, exactly. Look, these are the kind of games that you need to be demonstrating your superiority. Frankly, it is a team who are currently sitting in second, but who have they played? Really, no one of significance, right? They've not played any big teams. So this is exactly what we should be doing. We've seen better Rangers teams go to Pittodrie and struggle. So that's the thing. We need to. I don't necessarily think obviously the result's the most important thing, right? But we've seen other teams go up there and struggle. What I want to see is this team going there and putting in the same kind of effort and energy that we got in these European games against Malmo, against Steaua Bucharest. I want to see that level of commitment, that level of energy, because frankly, that's what you need to do to try and win things. We haven't seen that enough in the league. We haven't seen that enough domestically. Aberdeen, I don't think, are going to be the type of team to just sit in. I think they should, in themselves, feel confident enough to go out on the attack. They're now just showing that he can be pragmatic, certainly managing to get a point in a certain game. But we ultimately we need to be demonstrating why we think we deserve to be in a title race. And frankly, it's an opportunity to claw back 3 points. The last time we had an opportunity to cut the gap at the top of the table, we fluffed our lines badly. And we really need to be demonstrating, more commitment to cut that gap, because I think anything else is going to be it's going to cause some ugly scenes, let's say.
Yeah, but I think we will leave the major pre-game build-up for the flagship show tomorrow evening. It's crikey, as the weekend's flown by. I could certainly use another day off, it has to be said, but especially if Rangers didn't get the win today, that has to. But yeah, I think that'll probably do us for this evening. That was a good chat. It's nice when Rangers are winning. Sheryl, last week we were going through it. It was a tough time. But yeah, a win for us this week. Long may it continue. I'd like to thank my guests this evening. Andrew, thank you for being as wise as always.
I'm glad I appear, so it's obviously the whiskey talking, but my pleasure, mate. And appreciate you doing some hosting as well, because it's always a nice treat for me not to have to do that. So thank you, and thank you to Sheryl as well. Nice to meet you officially as well. That was nice.
We're a team that is bonding. I think we're getting there. We need more games under our belt, but we're getting there. Sheryl,
October 25.
Yeah, that's the thing. October, November. You never stated which year. I think that's the key point. But Sheryl, thank you for coming on as always this evening.
Brilliant. Thanks very much for having me.
Lastly, again, our sponsors for the year: Rhino Express, Clyview Joinery, Athol Industrial Solutions, CSD Air Conditioning, Black Rooster, Art of Gold. Thank you for your support. We got through another night. Rangers really putting us to the test, but a win nonetheless. As I said, flagship show back tomorrow night. I've been your host this evening, Andrew Stewart. Thanks for joining me. Until next time.
Four Lads podcast is sponsored by Rhino Express, Clyview Joinery, Athol Industrial Solutions Limited, and CSD Air Conditioning, along with Art of Gold. Thank you for listening or watching the podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show.